Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Blizzard Watch podcast. I'll be your host tonight, Joe Perez. You may recognize me from other podcasts such as Tavern Watch, Lore Watch, and many of my other projects where I get to be an idiot on the internet. Joining me today, as always, is Editor-in-Chief of our lovely online endeavor, Liz Harper. How are you doing today, Liz?
Howdy. Good night. Good evening. Something. Wow. I don't know where that came from. It sure is a week.
It is indeed a week. Matt, unfortunately, could not join us today, so if you're listening to this, we decided to record it, and we skipped the pre-show because there's a lot going on this week. We figured it might be going a little bit long, but we also asked some friends to join us along the way. Joining us again, you may recognize her from some of our other times that she's been on here, is going to be Liz Pat. How are you doing today, Liz?
Hello, I exist and there's nothing going on while we record.
Indeed. For those of you at home, because we have two Liz's, there's a running joke in our guild where both of us exist, or both Liz's also exist, where we call one Liz Prime and the other one Liz 2. So if you hear me say that on the podcast, don't be alarmed. This is normal. And then joining us as well is Phil Ulrich, who, you've heard Phil. He's done some stuff with us before. Maybe a little role playing. How you doing, Phil?
I've been around a time or two. I'm good. And I mean, it just makes sense. You have to separately address both heads of the Lizdra, or you don't know who's going to talk back.
Indeed. Well, I think we're going to get right into it, folks, and we're just going to start cracking on. So, well, I guess Warcraft's got a lot of stuff going on still. Let's talk about the PTR first, because I think this is probably going to be one of the most interesting things. So, patch 11.0.7 is on the PTR, and it is the Siren Isle, a new zone in which you're going to have lots of fun new stuff to do, with some caveats, like you're not going to be able to fly at first. Possibly ever? Question mark? Who wants to talk about that? We'll go with Liz.
Blizzard knows how much we hate flying, so another zone in which we do not get to fly is... it's a little disappointing because we did get to Kazalgar and we got to fly immediately, and now we are going into patch 11.0.7 with a new zone which is going to be, it feels a lot like the Forgotten Reach to me. There's a lot of exploration, there are mysteries to uncover, you're going to want to be running around and crawling into every nook and cranny to find things and fight rares, I assume, and discover things, and you're gonna do it on foot. So I hope you enjoy that. It does look like you will eventually be able to fly, but that's from PTR data mining. We do not know how that will work. The ability to fly may be tied to a unique ring that you can get on the Isle called Circe's Circlet. And that's a new concept we've never seen before. But we don't know. It looks like an interesting place. It does seem a little bit samey because it feels so much like the Forgotten Reach. We're even getting another ring that we're going to be scouring the zone to find special gems to put in it. And it's like, really? We're doing this again? Okay.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk about that in a second, but I'm curious to see Liz 2's thoughts on this. Do you have thoughts?
It helps if I unmute. I don't know why we're hitting the go back button on flying. Like we've let the cat out of the box, out of the bag, excuse me. And what do we gain from those brief moments of running around as we work on our ring to unlock the flying ability? Just let us fly. Let it happen.
Phil?
I mean, this is one of the only occasions I'm going to get to see that little Red Riding Goat that I worked for in Mists, in Remists, I guess. But yeah, I think it's a little silly, but I don't know. It's wild to me that this is the same exact cadence as last time too. This is the 0.07 patch to the first major patch of the expansion. We're going to a brand new island that we haven't seen before to get a ring that you put 3 special gems in. I've heard this song and dance before. It was mediocre the first time. I'm sorry.
But if you'd played a Drakthir in Dragonflight, you had at least seen the Forgotten Reach. You knew it was there. This is all new random island we are discovering.
Yeah, this is presumably the one that there are two goblins standing around in Dornigal right now, Ricket and Ticker, who are having a conversation about this island, and another earthen not far away who's asking another if they've heard about the goblins talking about the island. So they're really trying to hint at it being out there, but I don't know. This is just and on top of this, I don't blame them for not wanting to throw perfectly good content away, but apparently the map at least was an unused map from Island Expeditions, which does mean that maybe not flying will not be a huge deal, because all those were relatively well designed to be traversed on land as well, and they're fairly broad and expansive. So I'm not as bothered by not flying, knowing that that's where the map came from, but I don't know. I just worry that they might get in. I don't want them to get into a cadence like certain other games where you can almost predict what content will be in what patch based solely on the number. Like, I don't want to be able to go, okay, this is patch 12.07 in midnight, so now it's time for our island with a ring on it. Like, I don't want that.
Yeah, and I mean, even like if you even want to think about it, like even Shadowlands, when we went to Korthia, it was basically an island. It just happened to be surrounded by void instead of water. And I'm not opposed to reusing systems. We've talked about this on the podcast before. Reusing systems is fine. Borrowing systems and pulling them forward is fine. But we've never really seen them pull something like this forward that quickly. And I think that's really, it's a choice. I don't want to say it's a bad choice or a good choice. It's certainly a choice. It's not an exciting choice, though. And I feel like they kind of pen themselves in with something to try to make players invest time in the new zone. Which again, making sure that you don't fly there is just, it's an old tried and true method of making sure that you spend more time there than you maybe normally would have. You have to get from point A to point B. You're on the ground doing it. Takes you longer to get there. You're more likely to experience other things and maybe have to interact with other NPCs or players during the course of it. But the ring is just, it's not exciting. And leveling up gems, I already play a jewel crafter. I don't need to do this again. And gear wise, they sort of stuck themselves here, right? Because what else are they going to give you? Are they going to give you a cloak? Are they going to give you a necklace? Are they going to give you a trinket? Or are they going to give you a ring? They can't give you any of the other gear slots because weapons and offhands are way too important, and you'd have to balance them way too hard for every class. Most classes are so reliant on like weapons or offhands at this point that trying to make a generic one just probably wouldn't cut it. And then you're not really going to replace a piece of tier gear or something like that with an item. And the cloaks, like if you got the cloak from Rashanan, are you really going to look at something else?
It'd be a lot of effort for a 0.07.
Yeah, and I feel like this is sort of like here's a middle ground, here's a ring, you can invest some time into it if you want, and I have a feeling it's just going to be sort of generic stats probably yet again.
Yeah, especially if you like Mastery, this is going to be nice because there's already a gem setup that one of our guildmates found in about 10 seconds of looking at the available gems that just maxes out your Mastery, and then you never have to think about it again.
Hey, as a class,
I could go with that.
As a class in spec that already gets like 50% mastery just for being in my spec, not exciting. But again, we'll see what happens with it. It's at least a thing. But go ahead.
I'll reserve judgment until I see it. But I was not immediately excited by the news. But there are red pandas on the island, and that's okay.
I was just gonna say that is exciting.
They don't just look like normal pandas either. They look like
they look like Digimon.
Pandas? Yeah.
Frankly,
oh my god, they do.
When I first saw these things, which are called red pandas, I kind of thought Care Bear because they have that kind of little puffed out tummy and they're walking on their hind legs.
It is. It's like you applied a new colorway to Volpira and shrunk them down a little bit.
I was just going to say that they look like Volpira in a red panda suit.
Yes.
And I'm not mad about it.
No.
It's kind of precious.
Made it a little weird. You've made it a little weird.
Well, there is a note further down in the data mining about a battle pet named Full Belly Rolling Paw from the trading post, and it mentions a full belly, which reads like a tribe or a group name of Mixi. So I wonder if these are like the inhabitants of the island that we're going to be dealing with, and if so, I hope so.
It would make sense. It also makes sense why it's a humanoid with a backpack too, right?
There is another pet, which is a clockwork beagle, which is exactly what it sounds like. It even has a wind-up thing on its back.
Oh my gosh.
I will burn something down to get this pet.
So it's like, we aren't super thrilled about Siren Isle, but also there are reasons that we're going to go there anyway. We're not skipping this, but...
And I want to take a moment just to talk about some of the other ones. We don't have visuals for them, but we do have some names of some of the ones. And Phil already mentioned Full Belly Rolling Paw, but we also have Crackle Roar, Cave Crawling, Cliff Reach Cub, Battleboard Piglet, my personal favorite, Marmaduke. I don't know how they're going to get away with that one, because I'm pretty sure Marmaduke is not public domain, but good on you. Parlay, which looks to be, it's probably going to be a bird because it's got the flying school. And it looks like it's going to be from Plunderstorm, which we're going to talk about because Plunderstorm's coming back. But there's a lot of really, like, it looks like they actually spent some time maybe on the battle pets, and maybe these are stuff that they wanted to put in before and just couldn't get them finished in time. But either way, I'm okay with it. Also, a Titan Orb is a battle pet, because that's a thing that hasn't been done before. So, yay, you can live out your Titan Construct fantasies if you're an Earthen. But yeah, Plunderstorm. So that's coming back, and Liz made a note here in 2025 with recolor rewards. I kind of got bored with Plunderstorm, so I'm going to leave this to you guys. What do you think?
I don't want to do it, but I want those colors.
They've been reading your dream diary about these colors. Black and purple.
Black, yeah, the whole thing is kind of like if, it's the same old Plunderlord sets, except they're black with dark blue and purple accents and silver trim. So I have to admit, they look really great. And also, I don't want to do that again. I did it once, and it was fine. It was fine. But it was getting old by the end.
The good news is it doesn't look like you'll have to do it the whole time. Like, so the original, this is the biggest change that they've already got in place, data mined. Previously, to get the Plunderstorm rewards, you had to fill out a renown bar. And they did speed it up fairly quickly into Plunderstorm, but you still, like, if you wanted all the rewards, you had no choice but to go through all 40 levels, even if you're like, I don't want the swabby look, I don't want these crappy weapons, I want just a cool pirate coat at the end. Well, then you're in for grinding, what was it, 40 levels of renown? 40.
Yeah.
It appears this time that we are accumulating a currency called, appropriately enough, Plunder, and you can just spend it directly on what you want.
So they took out the plunder to renown conversion middleman, basically.
Yeah. And so the number here is if you want to farm literally everything, you need 39,000 plunder. It took 100,000 plunder in the first Plunderstorm to hit 40. I can't imagine the numbers are going to translate 1-to-1, but it also means that if all you want is like that black and purple Plunderlord outfit, and like maybe a weapon or two, like you can get in, get that, and get out. You don't have to earn rewards you don't want. You can just get what you want out of Plunderstorm and then let it go.
Which is good, because there's going to be probably a decent chunk of people that are going to be doing exactly that, or at least I would imagine so. But yeah.
I'm one of them. I'll probably get in there to get the pirate set because it does look really nice, and I found that the previous one, the red one, actually even looks nice if you're just using other pieces of it in transmog. So I'll probably get that in some of the weapons, but I'm not sticking around to earn absolutely everything. I don't need another shovel, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, this might still be easier than the Path of Ascension.
Yeah,
I did that
probably.
Once.
Yeah.
And I did that once, and that's enough. Once was enough.
I am going to slide this in here, though, because since you mentioned Path of Ascension, this just came out this past week. You will be able to buy the Path of Ascension armor type rewards now, no matter your armor set. So you don't have to beat it 4 times anymore.
Which I am going to take advantage of, except that means I need to farm so much currency. Just so much.
No, you don't. We'll talk about it later.
Well, speaking...
We'll talk about it later, but yeah, they made Path of Ascension a lot more accessible at the end of Shadowlands, and this is just kind of like the final nail in having to grind that out.
Well, speaking of random currencies and earning things, the anniversary is continuing, which we talked about before. The anniversary event, which is going for what, till January, right? Going to into the new year.
Till January 6th, I believe. So we have a while. We have time.
Which is great news if you're farming up your bronze celebration tokens, because maybe you didn't farm enough bronze during remists. But you get a chance to earn all of your armors or whatever else you're looking for, any of the pets or anything else. But apparently there's a hidden quest or secret quest that's going on. Anybody want to talk about that? Because I honestly didn't know about this.
So I haven't done any of the hidden stuff. I've done the introductory quests, which are not hidden. This is exactly like the Secrets of Azeroth, where you have your funny little hat that kind of points you in one direction or another, and you wander around and you find secret things. There is, if you go to guest relations in outside the Caverns of Time, you will get a quest that introduces the system and kind of walks you through the beginning. And after that, it is a big secret finding extravaganza, which, by my understanding, is kind of driving the community insane. Because it's a lot. I believe if you do all of these, you will get the title Detective, which is actually really appealing. I would run with that. But yes, it's running around collecting secret things and completing secret unknown quests. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna get through.
Is it?
I did not do all of Secrets of Azeroth. I did some, but not all of it.
So is it actually like complete, or is it still like unfolding as we go along? Because I think I accidentally did part of this because I saw a quest line from a Tuskar and I was like, I must do this. It is a Tuskar.
Yes, those are the introductory quests. So I believe it is still rolling out. It's been rolling out day to day, and I believe we are day 6, day 7. We're about a week in.
Yeah.
And that's all I can tell you. Just go looking and go follow the secret finding community on Discord.
Yeah, the tricky part for this is that there's 2 separate parts, just like the last time we did secrets, and they're not really related. Except this time there actually appear to be 4. There's the main storyline, which is what starts at Alex, the guest relations Draenei. And that's rolling out day by day. And that rewards a detective title and some tokens. But then there are also side stories that unlock as you go along that were hidden up to a certain point, I believe. There are also these things called celebration crates that you have to find using clues and then return them back. And then there is a part no one has found yet, but which seems to award, and I'm going to look this up on Wowhead because the name is absolutely wild. There is an achievement called Rat's Revenge, which refers to a character named Rats who shows up a few times during the guest relations. And the achievement shares an icon with Incognito, the indecipherable fell cycle, whose source is listed as WoW 20th anniversary ?
That's
so there's
wild.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's just like, so if you remember the original Secrets of Azeroth, there was the main quest line, which is like what Liz was talking about, where you were following things around with your torch and your Idol of Onara and your thinking cap and finding clues and walking X paces west and 5 paces north to find something and so on and so forth. But then there was also that separate side quest where they just added things out in the world to go to, and those gave you the pieces that led to the Mimiron's Jump Jet's mount. It was added at the same time, but seemingly completely separate. And this is kind of the same thing with this. They've added a lot of little side things along with this, but there's a detective model or detective title. There's cosmetic thinking caps, and there may eventually be an indecipherable fell cycle. So worth following along as it goes along. We've posted a little bit about it, and Wowhead has a guide that they are adding to as people find more things. The good news is, if this is anything like the previous secrets, this will stick around and you can keep doing it.
Well, at least as long as the celebration is going, right? Because that looks like some of this stuff is keyed like around the celebration grounds itself. So it seems like this one might be dependent on that, or at least you want to try to get it done before January.
That's my guess.
I'd suggest finishing it before the event is over, but you don't have to like rush to keep up with it day by day. I don't think there's going to be that much tied to it.
Fair enough. I mean, I like when they do stuff like this, but I also think that there might be a small level of, I think they do make it somewhat complicated just to mess with the secret finding community
Yeah.
in particular at
Yeah.
this point. They're like, hey, we're going to give you something to work on. Ha ha ha. Take that.
There was a throwaway line in a hotfix patch note from last week that said made several changes to make secrets harder for secret finders to find.
Yeah, okay, that confirms it then.
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing where the stories they have in these are always kind of cool. Like there was like a big mystery at the end of the last Secrets of Azeroth event for like lore nerds. And I'm really hoping this will lead to something like that. But also, I'm very bad at the logic jumps you have to go through to these secrets. So this is the kind of thing where I'm just going to kind of come along as it gets done and do it.
Same.
Go, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I think I'm in the same boat, and I do like where some of this, like I'm reading through some of it, where like it takes you through the world. It's taking you to some very interesting places. It's making you do some interesting things. I mean, you're going to old parts of the world where maybe you haven't gone, like Thousand Needles. When's the last time anybody really spent any time there?
Probably before it flooded.
Probably. Or, you know, talking with NPCs that maybe people haven't talked to in a while, like Rexar. I mean, when's the last time Rexar has been really involved since what? We went to you know, War Dads?
Yeah, he shows up in the Orca Heritage Armor line.
Yeah.
But other than that.
Yeah, but I mean, so it's there. If you're interested in that type of stuff, I would highly recommend checking out the website or any of the various guides that are out there. And, you know, maybe you can go do your thing, follow along, and like Phil said, you're not going to have to worry about rushing, but hey, there you go. Speaking of Phil, would you like to talk about bugs? I hear you like bugs.
Oh my God, there have been so many recently. It's amazing. So last week, there was one. So this has been, I will say on the whole, and I don't think this is a contentious statement, that the War Within has been one of the buggiest expansions to come out for World of Warcraft in a long time. And I don't just mean like class bugs. Like I keep fairly in touch with the monk community. I know for a while in Shadowlands, Windwalker monks had a separate bug tracker where they tracked just Windwalker bug monks. I'm talking things like, and we figured this out. If you had a guild in a raid and anyone in the entire guild transferred a currency in their warband, it would briefly disconnect the entire guild from guild services, reconnect them, causing a huge lag spike. This week, we got some more extremely showy ones. This one's been actually going on for a couple weeks of the anniversary, and it's making it a pain in the butt for Alliance characters. The portals from Stormwind to the places that you need to go for the anniversary event are instead dumping you in the middle of the ocean. In some cases, killing people because they are landing way outside fatigue lines and unable to make it back to land in time. At one point this week, you could log in and find that you were unable to see anyone else, but you could see their spells. This led to things like the Mount Mania was just you. You could hear other people talking. You could hear, because everyone loves the Mount Mania event out at the anniversary. There's a lot of like good-natured ribbing and joking when the NPC pulls out her swift spectral tiger and everyone complains, "Hey, we're not made of money." But if you went out there this week, it was just you and a bunch of talking ghosts. I even know a couple people who ran dungeons during this time where you couldn't see your guildmates, which, as someone who's been healing this expansion, makes me twitchy to even think about.
Phenomenal.
At one point, warband currency transfers were turned off to fix, quote, a problem, unquote. No word what that was. For a while, there have been issues inside the raid too, where the graphical effects for two of the fights were not matching when they were actually hitting you. And we're talking the last two fights, so some of the hardest ones, in which case one of the abilities actually is an instant kill for Mythic Raiders. And then Blizzard hotfixed it and made it worse. So it's just been... It's been nonstop bugs. It's been one thing after another since the beginning of the expansion. It's a little disheartening at this point.
Yeah, I think part of it is, like, we talk about this a lot. This game is old. I mean, we're having the 20th celebration of it, right now. We literally just talked about that. That's a lot of code to change and fix and try to work with. Mm-hmm. And stuff like this is inevitably going to happen. And unfortunately, how you deal with it or how it gets dealt with, varies depending on what actually is broken. The Warband one was wild. I mean, and I'm sure everybody has experienced this at least once or twice. Guild services kick them off, and the next thing you know, you're wiping to a raid boss or a dungeon boss or something like that because of the huge lag spike. Like for us, I remember Rashanan was for that first set of pulls we did on it unplayable for a lot of people. It was rough, but at least they are working on it and they are trying to resolve as many bugs as possible. But who knows how long that's going to take? And I wish them luck with it because man, it has been bad, this expansion, and it started right off the bat. I mean, heck, you're talking about class bugs. Just from my end, one of my core abilities in my class for healing just wasn't working. Just didn't exist. Like,
yep, I've got one right now that I would be excited to put a talent point into, but previously it was bugged in a good way, and then in an attempt to hotfix it, it now no longer works at all. So, cool, thanks.
Yep, seems fine. But if you've experienced this or any other bugs, they're probably working on it. So hold out hope. Hopefully we'll get something that, for those folks that are experiencing it, and maybe it'll make your game less chaotic. Oh, boy. From there, I guess we have a little bit of classic news, and I just want to talk about that real quick. Classic Firelands Raid releases this week. As of this recording, it'll be Thursday. So 2 days from when we're recording, if you're listening to this live or listening to this recording, it should be today. That's usually what happens when we end up releasing these. And the WoW Classic Season of Discovery Phase 6 Encourage launches on 11.12, with Encourage itself opening up on December 8th. And it will have basically different difficulty levels. Who wants to talk about this? Because this is wild.
The difficulty levels, we knew Phase 6 was coming, but we didn't know about these difficulty levels. It's a system they call Descent into Madness, and it's you opt into it when you first start the raid, and it's increased difficulty with extra rewards. Sounds simple, right? So you kill the first boss, you have a limited number of attempts. We don't know how many, but the PTR goes up this week, so we should know more next week. You kill a boss, you get all of the normal loot you would get, but you also get a bonus chest. You can open that bonus chest. Or you cannot open that bonus chest and go on to the next boss, where if you defeat it within the number of kills you have, then you get a bigger bonus chest. And so it sounds like this crazy gambling game where you're like, do we want to push our luck for it almost sounds like a game show, right? Are we going to push our luck and try for a bigger reward on the next boss? Can we get this boss down? It sounds really neat to me. Season of Discovery has been just really fun to follow. Yeah,
I gotta say, Season of Discovery definitely sounds like a lot of fun, and I don't know that we would ever do this, but I know dang well that if they ever implemented something like this in retail, our guild would probably gamble, let's be honest.
Oh, we would absolutely be using the push our luck mechanic. Are you kidding me? That's amazing.
But go ahead.
We don't know many of the details about this, like how many tries do you get, what kind of loot do you get, how many more pieces of loot do you get if you push your luck. So, but we will find out, I hope. So I just think this sounds so cool.
And then this is hitting the PTR this weekend, right?
Mm-hmm. On November 8th, so Friday. It'll be live when you're hearing this, very likely.
Wonderful. Then there's another note here that I'm not going to use the colorful language, but there's apparently a promotion going on, not just with Mountain Dew, but all of PepsiCo. So who wants to talk about this? Because we were talking about it in Guild, and it feels like... Do you remember the last time they did this? Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but they did the same thing, and it was with Pepsi products, where you earned points, and you traded in those points specifically for, like, rewards, but most of them were, like, just tabards.
Wasn't that the one where we got like the red and blue battle bots that you could like fill with red and blue fuel?
Yeah.
Yeah. So who wants to talk about this then and the details of it? Liz too. You haven't talked much. Go forth.
I am the voice that gets to opt in on this one. So basically, it's exactly the way it sounds, and is exactly as we've seen with some of these other promotions, where, uh, with the caveat that there's no purchase necessary, you can of course put in through their website. But if you buy what is it, Doritos, Mountain Dew, and Rockstar, there will be codes on the bag, under your cap. I'm not sure how Rockstar will work because it's in a can. And you put those codes in at their website for points that you can then redeem for goodies in game. And these include what appear to be aprons, which are probably going to mog over tabards, battle pets, including Lil Ragnaros, and the Hate Forged Blaze Cycle mount. I'm not gonna lie, actually looks kind of cool to me as a Diablo player, but the point values are varied based on the participating product that you're entering the code for. So these can range anywhere from 100 points to 1,000 points for what you are, where you earned the code. And we had the gummy candy what was it?
Oh, yeah.
Trolleys.
The trolley
We
promotion.
just had the trolley promotion, to mixed results or mixed feedback from the community, and I feel like we're just fast forwarding directly into another one. The bots are cute, that you can get as a battle pet, and of course, Lil Ragnaros is something that I think everybody loves.
It is
But
worth noting that Little Ragnaros was in the cash shop. I mean, he is
Yeah.
a pet you can buy for cash. So it is interesting that now you can buy him for 400 points. Whereas I think he's still in the shop for $10.
Which is
I
funny
believe
because with the
so.
cost of soda, it's going to be about $10.
Depending
But
on what
can,
you buy.
Yeah, you can go out and buy yourself 2 20-ounce Mountain Dew Maui Bursts and spend the points there on a single low Ragnaros as well. As far as point to dollar to point conversions go, it's not bad. It's mostly them trying to push their newer flavors. So you'll find that the limited time stuff like the new Game Fuel flavors, etc., give more points than standard. But I admit I had some points left over from a previous promotion where, and this is the weirdest thing, they had a digital item that would sell out each day. So I had 600 points remaining when this opened from a previous promotion for a different game entirely, and I bought myself the motorcycle right off the bat.
Nice. Now, I will say the part that's most interesting to me, and kind of speaks to, we'll say, the rate of adoption of the current expansion, is that you can also use a boggling 4,000 points, which would be 4 24 packs of Mountain Dew, to purchase the War Within Epic Edition of the expansion. I can't think of an expansion where you've been able to purchase like this before. Can you? Do either of you three, or one of you three, remember one?
No.
I do not.
This is definitely a first.
Yeah,
But
that
at the
really surprises me.
At the same time, how many people are out there who want to play the expansion and have not already bought it? It's kind of one of those things. If you're buying it with Mountain Dew,
Yeah,
you weren't super invested in the first place.
It feels like an interesting throwback that ties in with the anniversary. So kind of hear me out here. While I'm not super keen on it, it seems to fit right in with that theme, because some of the NPCs we go and we see at the celebration are like Mr. T's Night Elf Mohawk. He's there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of NPCs that were really important during pop culture mainstream phenomena that was WoW early on when they ran this promotion the first time. So it feels kind of fitting in a way that they're sort of doing it again. But it is wild that they're adding the expansion on there, because you don't see advertisements for WoW like you used to. And I think the people who know about it already know about it. I don't know that it's going to capture any new markets. I don't think any Call of Duty bros are going to be like, yo, I got a case of Mountain Dew. I can just go buy this expansion now. Let's go. But it is an interesting precedent to see them make that type of arrangement with PepsiCo again and offer that product like that in the year of our Lord 2024, where crossovers are still absolutely prevalent everywhere because everybody wants to cross promote because they think it's going to make them more money.
You mentioned crossovers, and there is one coming up very soon in our notes between Diablo Immortal and World of Warcraft. Do you want to touch on that one?
Why don't you go ahead since you brought it up, and then we'll finish out the last of the Warcraft news.
Excellent. I'm rather surprised by it, to be honest, and not necessarily in a bad way, because Warriors of Sanctuary are going to be able to defeat the Lich King in the new mobile title, in the mobile title. So, you'll be able to battle him at the Frozen Throne, which is going to fall in the Cutthroat Basin region, and he will drop a new legendary gem called Mornskull. But other than Heroes of the Storm, where the basis is the entire Blizzard universe, again, I'm quite surprised by this crossover for the 20th anniversary, where you can actually kill the Lich King in Sanctuary. So if you've ever daydreamed about being a demon hunter or a barbarian and cleaving Arthas's skull, you're going to have the opportunity, and that's fascinating. In part because this is the first Diablo X World of Warcraft where they're not asking for our money, at least not directly, because we're not touching on the monetization of Diablo Immortal.
Fair. This is a weird one. Like, one hand it's cool, on the other hand, like, WTF?
Yeah.
So
yeah, they had Shadow of the Frozen Throne, but that was just for transmogs. You weren't actually killing a different property character.
The more I read of this is a weird crossover. Like, you've got the Arthas thing, sure, and there's weapon skins from all over the game's history that you can also earn from it, including one I'm looking at, and as a person who played Blood Daycare at the time, I'm kind of mad about it. You can get Remornia as a weapon skin for Blood Knights.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you go further down, there's also a Murloc mini pet, and if you go even further down, you can apparently earn something from, I admit I don't know what the Phantom Market is, but this looks like transmog based on Illidan, including, and I'm cracking up here, the distant longing emoji.
Oh boy.
Oh my god. Wow. This is a lot.
The Murloc pet is really cute. And this is not the first time they've had a Murloc pet crossed over into a Diablo property. They were, famously rewards for various expansion purchases for Diablo said that carried into Diablo 3, but I can't claim that I've ever fantasized about killing Arthas outside of the Warcraft universe.
Nope, definitely not on my bucket list, I can tell you that much. But I mean, again, doing weird crossovers with their own IPs, not unheard of, and we'll probably see more of it in the time to come. But all right, if you play Diablo Immortal, there you go. And apparently that cosmetic treasure goblin backpack that you can get in, and all you have to do is level to 10, that's nice. And the fact that they're recognizing pre-existing 10s is nice.
Yeah. And
that
that starts
one
November
is
13th.
That is in World of Warcraft. You can get a treasure goblin backpack, but you have to play a little bit of Diablo Immortal.
Mm-hmm.
Immortal is, of course, free. Just have to download it, play up to level 10, or log on to a already existing level 10 character. So
you may already have the bag though. This is the same
you
treasure goblin bag from the last expansion.
I don't know if I got that one.
It was from the same Diablo crossover event that lets you get like Wirt's third leg as a cosmetic mace.
Oh, and I definitely have that one.
Yeah, that was right at the launch, I believe, where the treasure goblins were spawning in Valdrakken. There we go.
Well, we're not quite done with Warcraft. Speaking of other things that are interesting and don't make sense. Apparently there's a new Battle for Azeroth meta achievement that's being added.
Where
the reward is Yanni's trash pile mount. And no, this is not fake. This is not April or weird joke. This is a real thing that is happening that you can get. What? Like that's going to be the title of this episode. Just what?
What?
Hour and a half of they did that.
The fact that it's a retroactively added meta achievement for an expansion that was 2 expansions ago at this point, right? Like because it was Shadowlands and then no 3 because it was
three expansions. Yeah,
3 expansions ago. Wow. Yeah, it's called the achievement's called Farewell to Arms. You put an end to battle for Azeroth by completing a bunch of achievements, which look like they're all over the place, from Mechadon, Maximum Effort, Azerothian Diplomat, I'm on Island Time, stuff like that, Battle for Dazar Lore. So basically, in theory, most of the stuff should be completed if you played through the expansion, although all the scrolls I set sail to see is going to be a bane for some folks. But yeah, you can get a Johnny. Go ahead.
There are going to be a few pain points in this. Like, I know some people will not have the PvP centric item or Heart of Azeroth essences for the Full Heart Can't Lose meta achievement. And I still don't know how you have Mechadon done, Joe, because it's just a huge RNG fest. Unlike the Nazjatar one, where you can just kind of chip away at it and get it done, the Mechagon requires an absurd amount of luck.
Yeah,
but it's interesting because they started with this in Shadowlands. They added one for with Back from the Beyond. They added one near the end of Dragonflight. And then I guess they decided they're going to move backwards and add them to the other expansions now.
I can't say that I'm arguing with it, because especially if we get more remix expansions, you're going to have more opportunities to kind of go back to these places and complete the activities that you haven't done and still like benefit and reward, experience rewards from it. I want to see them do this with Wrath of the Lich King, honestly, and Miss Pandaria. I think they would both have an opportunity. Can you imagine if... not that this would ever happen, because low RNG is their bread and butter and gamer tears are what they drink. Can you imagine if they implemented a meta achievement for Wrath that gave you a reskin of Invincible?
Everybody would lose their mind. Oh, man.
Yeah. I'm going to have to try this one, though, because it's got my favorite low of trash heaps, Johnny.
I mean, yeah, this is something that would actually get me back into BFA.
Fair enough. And maybe this could be an idea that they're looking at, maybe more remixes in the future, because we talked about it. I think we all agree that the Remiss was a really great event, especially for leveling characters and just having fun and doing something that is, was probably one of the best expansions that MMO has ever had. But Wrath is considered that for a lot of people as well. Wrath brought people into the game. I could see a Wrath remix having meta achievements like this and stuff like that for you to do to help encourage you. I think that'd be pretty cool. But another Warcraft thing that may be happening, at least there's an alpha that's been added to the catalog, and I don't think anybody had this on their bingo card either. Warcraft 2 Remastered has an internal alpha apparently at Blizzard, and boy, has the internet been mixed on this one. Some folks are very excited, and some folks are like, I remember what you did to Warcraft 3 Reforged. What's going on here, Blizzard? What's going on?
The good thing for Blizzard is that making a Warcraft 2 remaster better than their Warcraft 3 remaster is such a low bar. There is such a low bar to clear here to be more impressive than Warcraft 3. So maybe because they've set everyone's expectations so low, this will knock it out of the park.
I will say that they do have access to a lot of stuff that they didn't before. Like especially now they have Vicarious Visions now, right? That's now one of their campuses that handles a lot of remasters. They have access to whatever Microsoft decides to do with them as far as making other developers available for them. So they're not necessarily going to be caught in the same trap as they were with Warcraft 3. So maybe it'll be good, because I mean the Diablo 2 remaster was fantastic.
Oh, it's
yeah.
spectacular, yeah.
I mean, not without its flaws, but I mean, as far as resurrecting a 20 some odd year old game was, it was pretty good. So
And
maybe
they've also managed to keep the interest in it too, where they're, they were throwing out various activities with the ladders as they refreshed. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to go, wait a minute, you knocked it out of the park over here, and over here you didn't even trip at the finish line, you tripped halfway down the racetrack.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully this will be good and not bad. I have very fond memories of playing Warcraft 2 with my friends, and maybe spending more time doing that than I did my homework. So maybe it'll be good, because I wouldn't mind diving into it. And then there's one last thing for Warcraft news that I am particularly interested in, because I am absolutely a goblin. There is a new set of World of Warcraft 20th anniversary dice. Are you a dice goblin? Do you want a polyhedral set of resin dice, polyresin dice? Well, you can go ahead and do it, and it's got reds and golds and blues and Warcraft symbols on the D20, and you can go ahead and get it. I don't know if I agree with the price on it, being a regular set of dice set at $30. But yeah, it's kind of cool to see that they're just branching out. I still have the Diablo dice. Do you remember those when they gave that out at BlizzCon?
No, I don't remember those.
So it's still in my bag, actually. It's my emergency set of dice that I carry in my work bag. But it was a set of dice that they gave out during, I want to say it was the BlizzCon where they announced Diablo 3. It was it was in the goodie bag, and it was a leather bag stamped with the Diablo logo and like all the crackles and stuff that you would expect. But it was a nice set of just regular polyhedral dice, nothing special, except it was done in the Diablo font. So all the numbers were the Diablo font, and it was really, really cool. I like stuff like that. I wouldn't pay $30 for it, maybe, but this is a distinct maybe for me. How about you? Does this entice any of you other dice goblins? Because I know I have at least one of you here.
The problem is I think I'd have to see them in person or see a video of them, because some of these, like, they're half red, half blue. And some of the photos make them look really neat. And in some of the photos, the colors look muddy, because shoving red and blue together can make just kind of a dark, muddy purple in the middle. Mm-hmm. So I would want, before I spend $30 on an ordinary set of resin dice, I would want to know what they look like more than these pictures show me.
The other problem that I think I have with it is, at that price point, these are tumbled dice. So for those of you at home, again, I'm a dice goblin, so I apologize for the explanation I'm about to give you. When dice are made at mass volume, like your Chessex dice, your cheap polyhedral dice, they're polished by tumbling. So they're done exactly like a rock tumbler. And this is essentially a way to even out the dice, or at least take the sharp edges off, put them up to a high shine by just dumping them from one tumbler of aggregate to another until they're nice and shiny. And then you put them in their respective containers and you ship them out. The problem with those is that's what creates unbalanced dice. If you ever had a D20 that always seemed to roll a 13, you probably weren't going crazy. It was probably a cheaper die that was done through that process. More expensive dice sets, ones particularly at the $30 range and above, are generally sharp-edged dice. These are either hand-polished or taken out of a very specific molding process that leaves them with very crisp edges, and also means that they are perfectly balanced. So for for less than this price, I can go buy a set of science dice, which are absolutely perfectly balanced dice. I think they're like $20 for a polyhedral set. So it's a little bit of a hard sell on the price, but it is cool. And I will say that the box that they come in is, possibly pretty nice, depending on what the inside looked like. But the outside has got the World of Warcraft 20-year anniversary logo, stamped with the map. And it is kind of a cool little piece of nostalgia, but this might be something that I wind up waiting to see if it goes on fire sale when nobody buys it.
packaging seems fancier than the dice themselves.
I think that is accurate, personally.
Yeah, I also personally find the gold on red sides to be a little bit hard to read. I'm probably gonna wait, just like I did with the Diablo Tarot, and pick these up later. Which, by the way, I just got that for $19. That's a beautiful branded product.
Indeed. All right, well, I think that does it for Warcraft. Let's move along because we got a bunch of other stuff to cover here. Diablo. There are some bits of Diablo news. And I'm actually going to throw this to the double-headed hydra that is Liz. So what's going on? Because there was a confusing fireside or campfire chat. And then there's a whole bunch of gear being released that I know Liz, too, has feelings about.
I do. And the fireside chat or the campfire chat is actually supposed to just be the standard mid-season campfire chat where they discuss balance changes and class changes, and hopefully, as much as I love listening to these things, we're not sitting there for 2+ hours.
Yeah, they have been really bad at making these super long Twitch streams where they're like showing us a PowerPoint presentation and reading it, and it's a little painful, and I start zoning out after like the first 45 minutes. So it is very difficult for me to follow personally.
It feels like being in a meeting at work when they do that, right? And like we all pay attention to the PowerPoint presentations at work, right?
It's like
legally,
they come
yes,
in.
we do.
They come in with a lot of enthusiasm, and you can tell that they love the game. But I usually feel like, okay, I'm sitting through this because I know you're going to make a blog post of this after you're done, and then I can read that.
And then it's almost easier to consume because they have, it's framed out the same way, but you can look at it and process it and come back to it. Whereas when they're reading off of the PowerPoint and you're sitting there still trying to do the math for what does this mean for me, and they advance forward to the next class and the next class, like that's how you have to do those things. But at the same time, you get stuck.
It feels like it's not always the kind of information that's best presented in this format. Like, sometimes they'll show you gameplay. Sometimes they've done, like, live plays of new things. Didn't they have, when they were first talking about the pit, they had someone actually on stream playing the pit and showing us what it was like and talking about it. That's the sort of thing where video is a great format. But when you're doing this and you're talking about class changes and you're saying, okay, necromancers get 5% more of this, and this ability now has a 3-second cooldown instead of a 2.5-second cooldown, and like going through that kind of minutia, it can be very hard to absorb. And they do like to do 2-hour campfire chats going over this stuff, and it's I have trouble getting excited about it.
The blog posts keep getting bigger and bigger. The streams keep getting longer and longer. And I will say, I don't think this is a fault necessarily, because it means they are working constantly and consistently in improving the game. But at the same time, not everybody can sit, for 2 hours in the middle of the day and catch this live and have the opportunity to ask questions. And,
because they do a live Q&A during the thing, but it's at 11 a.m. Pacific on a weekday. So it's just it's a hard sell.
Yes, agreed.
And part of that is
also, it's on November 12th, which is the day before Warcraft Direct next week. So we're gonna have a bucket of news for you.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, going back to the video thing, some of that feels like it might be a little bit of a leftover mentality back when video was king. We talk about this on the site too, where, sometimes people want to just listen to a video. They don't want to read. And sometimes I feel like they still think that, where most video consumption is short form these days, not necessarily a 2-hour slog.
And I mean, Rod Ferguson, in one of these very early campfire chats, talked about how he would prefer to do a live stream instead of a blog post. That was his preferred format for news. And at that time, they would do live streams and not do blog posts. So I am grateful that they have at least started doing live streams and also making blog posts, so you don't have to go back frame by frame and read the slides to find out what's happening. But
which we have done.
Yeah, we have done that because you used to have to know what was going on. So we've progressed somewhat, but man, these things they're kind of slogs.
It's really obvious from watching these and reading the notes that the D4 team is in there and they're productive and they're doing their thing and they love the game and they like making it better. But man, sometimes it feels like they put the Diablo 4 team in a hole and don't allow them to look at what the other teams at Blizzard's do. I just compare these campfire chats to things like when Blizzard was announcing highlights for Dragonflight, specifically the moment they announced the Drakthir Evoker. Like, they didn't give you a list of every talent that the class was going to have. They hit the highlights. It's like, hey, you're a cool dragon person. You're going to have dragon abilities. If you want specifics, there's a blog post later. Like,
Exactly.
you don't need to go through every necromancer ability and tell us that it's got a 3-second shorter cooldown and 5% more damage to nearby enemies now. Like, just say, we've made improvements and changes to necromancer abilities. Hit a couple of the big highlights because they know what the community wants. They respond to community feedback well, but like, hit some of the highlights and leave the minutia for your patch notes. Like, and if they were allowed to look at what any other team at Blizzard is doing, they might do this. But I think sometimes they just put the Diablo 4 team in isolation and don't let them see what everyone else does.
They're
Yeah, I don't know.
They have them locked
It feels
underground.
It feels like we've spent a year with Diablo 4 learning about the existence of Diablo 3, and that Diablo 3 actually did some things right that Diablo 4 is now doing. It's been a weird journey.
And a lot of those lessons were learned through pain, I think, because there was, I would say, an equal amount of frustration at the Diablo 3 launch as some folks have experienced with Diablo 4. So, I realize we beat this drum, pretty regularly of, at least in our Discord, which if you were a member of our Patreon, you could join and see new and interesting things. But we harp on this pretty regularly that they don't seem to have learned a lot of the lessons from Diablo 3. There's the argument that the pit progression is Nightmare Greater Rifts, and that Nightmare dungeons are not the kind of the subsequent inheritor of that title. But why are we? I'm don't get me wrong. I'm glad that they're improving. I'm enjoying a lot of what they've done with some caveats. But why are we having these conversations a year after the title came out?
Diablo 4 right now is the best the game has ever been. Playing Diablo 4 is great. It feels good. It feels good to play casually. There's a lot of variety in the activities you can do. Everything feels rewarding. It feels like there's a much better gear progression where you always have something to do. You have satisfying rewards. This feels like a great game. This feels like how it maybe could have launched, because a lot of it had rough edges when it launched. I thought it was a good game, but it had some rough edges, and a lot of those rough edges were things that Diablo 3 had learned through pain and improved on, and that Diablo 4 didn't do.
Part of that, I think, is also, not to kind of make a pun out of it, but I don't really know else way to say it. Diablo 4 had a little bit of development hell, right? Like, and when it released, it was frankly a miracle that it released at all. From the announcement of Diablo Immortal, and everybody sort of backlashing of why isn't this Diablo 4, to maybe a rushed announcement of Diablo 4, to going through multiple directors and team changes and everything else. The fact that the game came out and was as good as it was when it came out was a miracle. It wasn't perfect. Like Liz said, it was an enjoyable game. But there was just stuff that needed to be improved. And like you said, there were lessons that were learned in Diablo 3, but again, it's mostly a new team. So like they had to learn those lessons again, and you can feel that. And I do agree with Liz Prime's statement of like, this is the best the game's ever been, but now they need to start learning some other lessons. And I think the problem is things like this need a spokesman or a spokesperson. You need somebody who's not just a dev. You need somebody who's good at public speaking but also like understands how development works, so they can do exactly what Phil's saying, which is condense it down, hit the highlights, get people excited about it, and talk about it not in a technical sense, because that's what these feel like to me. They're going into the minutia like they would in a board meeting or in a meeting with their team of, well, this is the change we're making in this ability, and it's going to be this, and we're balancing it against this, which is great information. But the average consumer doesn't really care. Is my button pushing going to make me happier? Is gold going to go up? Is our legendaries going to rain from the sky? Like, exciting stuff, right?
There's kind of that adage in tech of don't let the engineers talk to the CEO, right? Because the engineers are excited. They're really into what they're doing. They're passionate about it, and they're going to tell you about all 65,000 lines of code that went into it. And the CEO wants 10 PowerPoint slides condensing 6 months of work into how is this going to be so that we can launch it. So you need that go-between, and you have folks like Community Director Adam Fletcher, very, very good at his job, kind of the face of a lot of what's been going on with Diablo. But if it's going to all fall on Adam, then it should be, Adam kind of going into this stuff, or Joe Pipiora or Joe Shelley, going into this stuff. It's cool when you feature the people that are in the trenches working on it, but they are also in the trenches working on it, and they're not necessarily, in the brain space of, let me condense down literally 6 months of my life of work into 5 seconds of blurb.
Yeah, and that's not the only thing. I don't want to harp on this. I want to move forward a little bit. This isn't the only weird thing. So do you want to talk about jewelry? Because that's a thing I know you have opinions on, and I would love to hear those opinions.
So this is part of a broader launch of, I believe, themed merch, which they do for the Blizzard Gear Store. But Liz Prime managed to find some very interesting new additions into the Blizzard Gear Shop, including Diablo-themed jewelry as part of I guess this is another collaboration with Rocklove, and it's really cool.
Rocklove makes nerdy jewelry for other game companies. I've seen stuff from BioWare. They own stuff they've made for BioWare, which is no one at all. So yeah, I saw this and I was really interested. I'm like, oh, I know they make cool stuff. Let me go look at this. And then I saw the price tag, which I knew I was expecting a high price, and this still was about twice what I was expecting. So I'm slightly less excited than I was to start with.
Well, what were those prices? Yeah. Don't let the folks at home hang in there.
So the most expensive thing is a silver collar necklace with a dangling kind of Lilith horn shape at the bottom. It's pretty cool. It was what first caught my eye. It's $220. It is silver plated artisan brass, and it's neat. It's also not actually silver. And even if it was half that price, it would be kind of a hard sell because it looks neat. It does not look like a nice piece of jewelry. That's not the right word, but I can't think of the right word. What would you call it, Liz?
It's very simplistic and almost elegant. It's designed off of the sort of chain and tail that Lilith has in her Diablo 4 design. And it's very, very cool looking. The way this came about was you had linked it in our staff chat, and I looked at it and I said, wow, that's really, oh my God, it's $220.
I mean, the little links look kind of like a vertebra.
Yeah.
A vertebra going down to Lilith's kind of little tail spike.
Yeah, that's exactly, and that's the design.
That is super neat, but
it is very cool. But I'm sorry, if I'm Blizzard, I understand that you have fans who have followed these franchises for 20 to 30 years. And now that we've been following it that long, some of us have adult money, and want to spend it on adult things. And silver-plated, nickel-free artisan brass is not it. There's actually... Go ahead.
One maybe good, maybe bad thing, depending on how you look at it. Like, if you were going to tell that this is like little tiny vertebrae in a chain, yeah, someone would really have to be like, have their eyes right in your cleavage. I mean, that's the only way that would happen. It looks very much like an ordinary chain from even close distance.
Yes. And what's interesting is I would say this is not even it's a really cool piece. If you get the chance, at least go on the website, look at it, say, wow, that is pretty cool, and then close the tab. But to me, the cooler one is actually the earrings, the Lilith earrings.
Oh yes, those are cool.
So they're modeled after Lilith's wings, and they look kind of like those you see them on YouTube occasionally, where someone pours a molten silver or molten alloy into a bucket of sand and then pulls out this like amazing, sculptural piece that's from the cooled metal. That's kind of how they look, where they're not mirrored, but they have this, molded sort of appearance to them. And the earrings themselves are in fact sterling silver. So, the kind of thing that you inherited from your grandparents potentially and have to polish to keep it looking nice and not tarnished black. But, that you did it for now, don't get me wrong, the earrings for being, very cool and sterling silver are still $85. But they also, to credit our editor Anna, this is something that 20-year-old Liz would have picked up some years ago and bought from Hot Topic. To be frank,
they do have that vibe,
which is it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it definitely does seem like it's asking for more than what people are going to be willing to pay.
It's like with the dice. I would want to, for spending this amount of money for a product that looks okay in photos, I would want to see it in person. So
especially for that much money.
So for that much money, like, is this like a heavy piece that feels nice, or does this feel like I bought it at Hot Topic? Can't be sure from these photos.
I was just complaining about spending $30 on dice, right? So like this is, and I own video game jewelry. Like I have an actual like silver wolf's head pendant from The Witcher, right? Like, and that was it was less than this. But I saw it in person before I bought it, and I think that's a kind of a big thing. But
I think that's a significant difference.
Yeah, but if this is your thing, obviously you can go ahead and take a look at it. But yeah, I think that for most of us that price might be a little bit too high. But if it's not and you enjoy it, I really hope that you are happy, because this is definitely for you then.
Yeah, more power to you.
And then I want to move on from here unless there's anything else we want to add about that. But Diablo monetization remains questionable. We'll leave it at that. And Liz, I do want to, Liz Prime, Hearthstone, you're going to talk now, because I don't play Hearthstone anymore.
I am going to talk, because today Hearthstone The Great Dark Beyond rolled out. And we have talked about this one before, but it is now live. It sends you into outer space, where a new starship keyword lets you build your own spaceship as you play, which you can summon at any time to crush your enemies. I love the new starship, because you play cards with a starship keyword, and as they get destroyed, they sort of conglomerate into your starship. One adds to the other, adds to the other, adds to the other, and then you can decide when you want to summon your starship anytime in the game. It costs 5 mana. So do you want to keep building your starship to something more horrible and powerful? Or do you want to play it early and get like an early rush? So I think it's such a cool thing that could potentially really change the game dynamics. But I have not gotten a chance to jump into Constructed today. There is a new Tavern Brawl today, which is the standard early expansion brawl where you play with some expansion decks. And so I'm looking forward to checking that out and seeing what's out there. And I think this is a great expansion. The last one was just kind of generic beach themed. It didn't have a big kind of selling point on cards. There was one card, every class had a legendary that let you use certain cards from another class, but it was so limited that it felt really unimpactful. This expansion, it feels like the whole theme of it is going to be really impactful and have a big play on how the game plays. There's also new Draenei minions, which are also kind of build into something because you have Prophet Velen, who, when you play him, he plays all of the battle cries of all the Draenei you have played all game. So he's kind of like the new Shudderwock, except Draenei themed. These are great things that I think are going to have a big shakeup to the meta, which the last expansion just didn't feel like it had. So I'm looking forward to getting some more time with this one.
All right. And I look forward to hearing about it because, again, I live vicariously through you in this regard. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but I think we want to cover a little bit of extra stuff here. We do have some other games that we have been playing and or are going to talk about here. Maybe this little thing called Dragon Age the Veilguard, which is a game that absolutely nobody saw coming or was excited about or anything of that nature. And not all of us are playing. No, not at all. I guess just first impression, like, what do you guys think about it? I know I really like the opening sequence. I've only played about less than 2 hours, mostly because I'm in the PC group, so I'm having some performance issues, which I'm trying to resolve. But everything I've seen so far, the voice acting has been great. The combat takes a little getting used to from my end. That seems to be the biggest thing for me. But overall, I'm pretty excited to start digging into the story of it because it definitely starts with a punch. No spoilers or anything like that. But definitely has me wanting more and wants me to go through the story. And it already feels like it's setting up in the first couple hours of gameplay a ton of side quests that are going to start like creeping in later, or side stories. I think I've talked about this on this podcast. I have a 32 rule, 30 minutes, 2 hours. You have 30 minutes to make me want to play your game. You have 2 hours to hook me. And this definitely ticks both of those boxes, where in the first 30 minutes of gameplay, I was already in. I wanted to play more. And then 2 hours in, I want to play everything and explore and feel everything that this game has to offer. So what do you guys think? Phil?
I mean,
Oh, you want me to go? Okay, I'm probably the weird one because I have barely played any Dragon Age before, and I was honestly not intending to buy the Veilguard until everyone in our guild was playing the Veilguard, and I was like, okay, I'll at least check this out, because certain reviews that I read said that even if you hadn't really played any Dragon Age before, this was a good place to jump in because it did a good job explaining the stuff you needed to know. And holy cow, I love this game so much. I downloaded it and immediately lost 11 hours of my weekend playing it. And just like excitedly sending messages to Liz like, holy crap, this character's cool, or I don't like this Eggman, or things like that. And yeah, so I'm also, and this is, you mentioned the combat. This is an interesting perspective for me because I'm just coming off finishing for the first time, contain your gasps, podcast listeners, just finishing for the first time the Mass Effect trilogy, because the Mass Effect Legendary Edition went on sale for $10 not that long ago, and 118 hours later I finished that, and then 2 weeks later the Veilguard came out, and the combat system is so Mass Effect-y. Like it feels like it cribbed so many notes from Mass Effect 3, and I can see where if you preferred the gameplay of Origins or the other Dragon Age games, maybe you would not like that. But for me, rolling straight into this has been a fantastic game. I love all the characters. I love I already liked this world because I've spent an unconscionable amount of time on the wiki for Dragon Age for someone who's never played it. Just absorbing the world building and like getting to actually play in it and see some of this stuff and remember, oh yeah, this is blah blah blah. Like I am greatly enjoying this game. I don't know if I really feel the need to go back and play the others right this hot second, but I am looking forward to losing many more hours to the Veilguard.
All right, Liz Prime.
This is I've been both very excited for this and very anxious about this for a long time, but it's great. It's great. For old school players of Dragon Age, the combat system is definitely the most disorienting thing about the game. It is very action oriented. It feels extremely modern, whereas, previous Dragon Ages did kind of harken back to some tabletop roots, and the game has moved away from that a little bit each time, and now it's really thoroughly dropped it. It's very much an action forward RPG. The story certainly appears to be vast. We are exploring all of these places that we have been hearing about for years, but have never seen, have never visited in any way or medium. And now we get to go there. We get to go to Navarra and see the Grand Necropolis, which is amazing. We get to go to Ravane, which haven't explored there very much. So far, I've just seen a beach, and I'm kind of like, okay, did we go here to look at sand? I don't know. So we're getting to go to all of these places that old school Dragon Age nerds are going to be like, we get to see this place for the first time. Oh my god. And also new players. I think this is extremely accessible because we're all going to new places for the first time together. And the introduction just walks you into it. It really lays out everything in advance. Very little is carried, very few of your choices are carried over from Inquisition into Veilguard, which you can look at that as a bad thing. I think it's probably a positive for the franchise as a whole. And it also means that new players don't have to worry about 3 previous games of baggage. They can walk right in and understand what's going on without having to say, oh, what was that decision I made in Dragon Age Origins? How is that going to affect this playthrough? So I think it is super fun. It is strongly character driven. All of the characters feel real and have really distinct personalities and wants, and it's great. It's great. I don't know how many hours I've lost in it so far. Probably a lot. That's all I'm going for. A lot.
And Liz, go ahead, Liz too. I was going to say you can give us your opinion if you've had a chance to crack into it.
That Liz too is not playing Veilguard because there are enough games going on in my life.
It is a problem. It is a problem.
Yeah.
I will say my biggest problem right now is avoiding just immediately making another character to do everything, but with the opposite decisions that I am making right now to see exactly what the other side is. And I'm like, no, I've got to finish the game once before I start over. Finish it once, then you can play again.
Yeah, he's not here, and he probably won't listen to this to hear it. Don't pull a Matt. Matt had I think 60 hours into Cyberpunk 2077 and barely made it past the intro for each of the starting origin backgrounds. He just kept making more characters and more characters and more characters because that's what he does. And it's very easy to do that here. The character creator is actually really well done. I think it's really well designed. The interface carries over a lot of the motifs with the tarot cards. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I think as we were sitting here, I think I made the decision that I'm going to move it over to the PS5. So I'm going to do a Mia refund and get it over to the PS5. Because that's the other thing I will say with the combat change, this definitely wants a controller.
Yeah, it's very, very controller centric. And if you've been playing on a controller, it's very comfortable. Also, note that Matt is not the only one who does that. Staff writer Chris Chesno has restarted at least twice already, to my knowledge. And due to pulling a Matt, took months to make it out of Act 1 of Baldur's Gate 3. So we'll see how far he gets in the Veilguard.
Well, I will say, since there are a bunch of games going on here, Liz, too, what are you playing that isn't maybe World of Warcraft?
So of course there's the World of Warcraft and Diablo, but I have been playing a few smaller games on Steam, such as Vampire Therapist and Stardew Valley. And Stardew just came, the newest update, 1.6, that was released this past spring, just came to console and mobile with some pretty adorable bugs.
Yeah, I linked one of these in the show notes for us, and one of the other ones that I read on there is hilarious. Right now, if you are experiencing performance issues in Stardew Valley, please take all the hats back off of your animal.
Which has been a feature that you could use for at least the current update, and I think 1.5, and it's very cute. Like previously, originally you could put hats on, I think, like the sea urchins, and also on your horse when you unlock it, and then it expanded to like all of your animals and pets. But apparently this now crashes the game.
Well,
there was another one listed where if you created a farm in a specific place and opened the coop on day one, your chickens would disappear. And if you closed your coop door for a full day and waited, they would come back. The developer, Eric Barone, tweeted, "Lore, there is a coyote." So...
You know, I don't know if we can call. I mean, he's definitely like, it's definitely a small group because he is just who he is making the game. But I don't know if we can call Stardew Valley a small game anymore. I think that's pretty well in the lexicanum of gamers at this point. But I'm glad to see that you're having fun, and I don't know why, and I don't want to pull a Matt and go off on a complete wild tangent here, but I tried playing Stardew Valley, and I used to love the Harvest Moon series. I just couldn't get into Stardew Valley, and I don't know why.
I tried it kind of early on, like 1.1, and I had it in Steam, and I had played it a little bit, and I kind of walked away from it, and I've since like switched computers and so on and so forth. And so one of our guild members had linked some YouTube videos in preparation for the 1.6 update, and I watched them and I went, "Oh, this looks so cool. I gotta try it." So I went back and I actually just got the perfection achievement for my playthrough a few days ago after a humbling 200 plus hours. So I'm not doing any speed runs anytime soon.
All right. Well, I think, though, that's going to do it for us today. We have more that we could talk about, but it's getting late. I want to eat food, so I think I'm going to end it there. And friends, I do want to remind you that shows like this and Blizzard Watch in general is made possible due to your generous contributions at patreon.com/BlizzardWatch. Your continued support means that this podcast site and community is able to thrive and grow. Blizzard Watch supporters enjoy exclusive benefits like early access to our podcast, a better chance of having your question answered on our podcast with a Q&A and ads-free site experience. If you have questions for this or any of our podcasts, please send them in. You can send those to podcast@blizzardwatch.com. Specify the show that it is for in the subject line, as well as provide us with any special pronunciation of your name. If you want to hit us up on Discord, we have the Q and Podcast Questions channel. Same rule apply. If you are a Patreon supporter, we have the Patron Q and Podcast Questions channel, where you may send those questions as well, and we look there first as a special way of saying thank you to our Patreon supporters for helping us keep the lights on. You can also send us questions through Patreon, and Dan will make sure that they get to us, usually accompanied by some form of meme involving a cat, so you can have that as an option as well. But I do want to thank Liz, Tu, and Phil for joining us today. Thank you very much for stepping in and lending your perspectives and allowing me time to drink water. Really, really appreciate that. Also, I just love having you guys around. It's always great to get new blood or new voices in here. And of course, thanks to Liz Prime for joining as always, and all the hard work that she does behind the scenes. Because while I may edit this podcast, Liz has been doing all the show notes, and I'm going to give her credit for that because life is hard and time is short, and Liz finds time to do everything because she's a superhero. Thank you, Liz.
Wow. With great power comes great responsibility. What am I supposed to be responsible for over here?
Unfortunately, you are sort of like the website mom, so I'm sorry with that.
No.
But with that, folks, we'll see you next week.